monitoring online presentation.
So after they've been enrolled on the web application, a participant will go to their Apple Store or their Android Play Store and install the free app, Outreach Smartphone Monitoring, and it'll come to this page where it's asking for a personal ID. The personal ID is what links their smartphone to our web application. So I'm going to go ahead and enter mine. It's going to bring me to the end user licensing agreement that they can review and agree to. Then it will bring me to where they have to do a static photo of themselves that OSM staff compare to their online video check-ins. It will ask me to access my camera whenever I'm checking in. I'm going to go ahead and take and choose a photo. And then it's going to bring me to the check-in page. It will ask me to allow OSM to send notifications to my phone because that is how it will receive the requested check-ins. Now it's going to load my check-in history, and this will only happen when it comes to the allowances and the permissions. It only happens the first time when you put in your personal ID and you're completing your enrollment on the smartphone app for the first time. So after this, when an individual is checking in, it'll be very quick and only be about 3 to 5 seconds for them to check in. Right now, as that's loading, I'll go over the tabs at the bottom. You have OSM Home, which is where they can check in, the screen that I'm on right now, and I'm trying to sync this. So it went ahead and synced, and I can do a voluntary check-in. Then it'll have notifications or appointments. It'll have the Help tab and then Rewards. So I'm going to go ahead and do a voluntary check-in. Please do not use OSM while operating a motor vehicle or heavy machinery. And I'm going to go ahead and do a check-in now. Hi, this is Mike and I'm at work. This is Mike and I'm at work. So that was a voluntary check-in. You can see how quickly that is. Now that check-in is uploading. You can see submitted now on the top, and that gray circle to the left will either turn green or red depending on if it is approved or failed. Now I'll go ahead and go over the tabs at the bottom. Of course, home is where you check in. Appointments. This is the court reminders, and I do have a report that's due. The Help tab, that is the crisis support line, which can be an 800 number for the state. It can be, and then also the contact non-crisis support line, which can be the probation officer. Find a shelter, which is the feature on the app where it will walk the participant to a nearby shelter, and then additional resources, which again can be employment resources or housing resources or counseling resources. Then if you go to the Rewards tab, you can see that I'm 2,310 negative points because I've been on the system for 1,549 days, but I only have 39 successful check-ins. And I have 185 unsuccessful check-ins. So you can see how this participant is failing. You can also view rewards and rewards history, completed days, and events. So that is the Outreach Smartphone Monitoring Participant smartphone app. When officers log into the Outreach Smartphone Monitoring web application, they will first come to a dashboard that will show all of their participants, whether they have 20 or 200 participants. So then you can drill into a specific case by clicking on it, and you'll see the participant's name. You will see their static photo that they take when first installing the app and enrolling onto the smartphone application. You'll see their personal code right here, which links their smartphone to our web application. You will see their device information, and you will see the different features. So for Summit County,
you're going to see check-in locations, calendar, and reports. On the left-hand side, you'll see the passive GPS markers. And then on the right-hand side, you will see one line for each check-in and one video for each check-in. So each time they check in, we'll receive the day of the week, the date, the time, the reverse geocode, or the address closest to that GPS ping, and then their video. As an example, for Summit County, the video should be about 3 seconds long, 3 to 5 seconds long, and they'll look like this. Where when we review the videos, because OSM staff will be reviewing all videos for Summit County, what we will do is compare the video to the static photo to ensure we identify the individual for Summit County and make sure they walk through the specific process. Some agencies have them say, I'm at home, I'm at work, I'm shopping. And also they will say a passphrase. This says none, but this was a voluntary check-in. When they do a requested check-in, there'll be a color and an animal like red salmon right there. So as a service, we go ahead and approve or reject each and every video for our customers. And one example of why we would reject the video is if it was poor lighting and we couldn't identify the individual, we would go ahead and we would reject that video. So when you are on this page, you will see all the check-ins on the right-hand side. Also, there are 4 different ways to check in on the Outreach Smartphone Monitoring web app. There are random check-ins, which you can indicate here up to 12 times a day, random check-ins. They work on an algorithm, so the individual, the participant, would never know when they were going to be tested that day. And you can also set bedtime hours with the random schedule. You can also trigger a check-in notification to immediately go out to a participant and request them live at that moment to check in on the system. Scrolling down, you'll come to our court and event calendar reminder. The third way to check in, you can click on a specific date, go down to check-in, and you can schedule a specific check-in at a specific time. So if a person has, let's say, community service every Tuesday at 2 p.m., you can go ahead and do a reoccurring event every week for them to check in at 2 o'clock in the afternoon to validate their attendance at that meeting. So you hit save, and then it will populate their calendar. Also on the event and calendar reminder, you can click right here. You can remind them of any type of event. So you can put in here court. Oh, I'm sorry. You can put in court. You can put in the address, and you can also put in special instructions. And you can remind them up to 6 times of any event. Also, if it is like a urinalysis, a UA that they have, you can click this button here and they will not be able to see that event. So you have some events that they can view, some events that they cannot view. Also on the court calendar, you can do reports. I'll show you this in just a moment on another section of the web application, but this is where you would assign a questionnaire, we call it a report, to a subject. They would receive it on a specific day, and they would have to turn it in on a specific day, and they would go through a series of questions and answer those questions. As you see here, has your address changed? Has your employment changed? So this is a way of remotely auditing participants, either in lieu of a face-to-face meeting or maybe to prepare for one. Moving up here, you can add comments to any of the cases. You can print a compliance report at any time, and the compliance report would encompass everything that they've done on the phone. Every successful check-in, every successful report, anything that they do on their phone, on our app, will be in the compliance report. So I'm going to go back one page here. I'm going to show you some of the rehabilitative features that we have. From the dashboard, when you click additional, you'll see the reports, which is that questionnaire. These are different examples of the questionnaires. Here's BAC monitoring. So you have an unlimited number of templates with an unlimited number of questions that you can send these participants, and they will answer them one at a time. So as this example has your address changed, you can also require further explanation. So if the subject answers yes, a freeform narrative box will pop up and they can put their new address in that box. So you can indicate that I want more, I'm requiring more explanation if they say yes to my address has changed. You can also email monitoring staff members. One example is, have you had contact with law enforcement since our last meeting? So if that is a red flag for this individual, you can say to email monitoring staff if they say yes, that I have had contact with law enforcement. So you can see here there's 5 questions. To add another question, you just click this button right here and you've got a blank question at the bottom. And again, this is in lieu of a face-to-face meeting or maybe to prepare for a face-to-face meeting. We'll go down to help resources. This is a section where you can put in shelters in a specific market. So if one of your participants find themselves without housing, the app will actually walk them right to the shelter. Also, additional resources. This is a section of the web application where you can put housing information, counseling information, employment information, anything that you think will help your individuals. Now, if I go back a page to the home screen, or the dashboard, hit additional, you can go down to incentives and sanctions. We have a robust incentives and sanctions program where you can assign a negative or positive point value to anything that the individual can do on their phone, whether it be turning in those reports or failing a video or not going to one of their scheduled meetings. Also, you can have financial and non-financial incentives and sanctions on the system. And we can go into great detail training all the reps on how to utilize this system. It is very easy. If you click on this green button right here, you can see where you just choose the incentive and or sanction. You can name it, do a description, and the point value needed to earn the incentive in that example. Now we're going to go to positive reinforcement statements. This is an automated positive reinforcement statement system that can go out to an individual at certain number of check-ins. So to assign one, you can say the number of successful check-ins, let's say 10, and after 10 successful check-ins, he would receive, as this example says, good job in a meeting and you've successfully completed 10 check-ins, keep up the good work, as a positive reinforcement statement. We'll go back to subjects. And again, this is your dashboard that shows the first name, last name, payment status, personal code, case identifiers, and monitoring end and start dates. What I'd like to show you is how to enroll an individual. All you have to do is go to, I'm going to show you the Andrew test subject. If you click on edit subject info, the only information that we need to enroll an individual is first name, last name, email address, and telephone number. Then you can simply go down and choose the different features. So for Summit County, it'll be location monitoring, which is that passive GPS that only pings their GPS when they check in once a week. They're monitoring start and end date. And this monitoring party will always be agency pay. And then who would receive either email or text non-compliance violation notifications. And that is the end of the web application presentation. And what we'll go ahead and do now is skip over to the smartphone application